A friend of mine counted the questions her 3-year-old daughter asked on the car ride to the grocery store. She got to 46 before they pulled into the parking lot. Why is the moon there in the daytime? Why does the dog next door have a tail and I don't? Why was grandma crying on Sunday? Why is the water wet? My friend was exhausted. She felt like she was losing her mind. What she did not know, and what nobody had ever explained to her, is that her daughter was displaying one of the clearest documented markers of a remarkable little brain. And it would be 4 more years before anyone figured that out. Her daughter now tests in the top 1% of her class. If you have ever wondered, quietly in the kitchen after bedtime, whether your own toddler might be seeing the world a little differently than the other kids at the playground, this video is for you. Because the real signs of a gifted toddler do not look the way we have been told they look. A kid reciting the alphabet on command, a 2-year-old doing basic math at breakfast, that is not what exceptional intelligence actually looks like at this age. The real signs look like behaviors most parents are quietly worrying about. And one of them on this list is the one that gets more moms crying in the comments than any other. I am saving it for number 7. Sign number 1. She burns through toys faster than you can keep up with. You bought the beautiful wooden toy. Everyone in the mom group said this was the toy. 10 minutes later, she has abandoned it and climbed into the empty cardboard box it came in. You try the sensory bin, the magnetic tiles, the puzzle that was supposed to be the thing. Nothing holds her attention for more than a few minutes, and you start to worry that her focus is broken. Her focus is not actually broken. Her focus is just moving faster than you are. Developmental researchers have a term for this, and it is one of the earliest and most reliable predictors of high cognitive ability they have ever been able to measure. The brain takes in new information, categorizes it, files it, and moves on. In a fast-processing little brain, that whole cycle happens in minutes instead of hours. She is not bored of the toy because she is difficult. She is bored of the toy because she has already extracted everything it had to offer her, and now her brain is asking, what is next? The toddler you cannot entertain is not lazy. She is running out of material. And if you think that one is a relief to hear, wait until you see what the next sign looks like, because it is the one most of your relatives keep telling you to fix. Sign number 2. She watches grown-ups the way other kids watch cartoons. Picture a birthday party. Every other 3-year-old is swarming the bouncy castle or climbing the cupcake table. Your kid is standing near the kitchen, studying your cousin's face while she tells a story. He is tracking the argument your uncle is having with his wife across the room. He is reading the whole room like it is the most interesting show on television. My mother-in-law called my youngest the little spy for the first 2 years of his life. She meant it as a worry. I thought maybe something was off. Maybe he was antisocial. Maybe he should be playing with the other kids. It turns out he was building something developmental researchers call a theory of mind, and he was building it years earlier than the standard timeline. He was figuring out that other people have thoughts and feelings and intentions that are separate from his own, and the way he was figuring it out was by watching everyone around him with the attention most adults reserve for a really good Netflix series. That quiet, watchful toddler at the birthday party is not antisocial. He is running a masterclass in human behavior while the other kids are just eating cake. Sign number 3. Sleep is a war nobody wins. She will not nap. She will not stay down. You have tried the blackout curtains, the lavender bath, the white noise machine, the sleep coach your neighbor swears by, the schedule your pediatrician recommended. None of it works, and you are wrecked, and you feel like you are failing at the most basic job of parenting. You are not failing. She has a brain that does not know how to turn off. When a toddler's neural networks are running at a higher intensity during the day, they do not simply shut down at bedtime. They keep processing. They keep filing away the things she noticed, the words she heard you say on the phone, the way the light changed in the living room at sunset. A tired body and a quiet mind are not the same thing, and in some toddlers, the mind stays very loud long after the body is ready to stop. This does not mean you should give up on sleep routines. Keep the routines. But knowing what is actually happening in there might help you stop blaming yourself at 3 in the morning. Sign number 4. She falls apart over things that seem small. The tag in her shirt is a full crisis. The vacuum cleaner sends her into meltdown mode. A loud stranger at the grocery store ruins the rest of the afternoon. You have been told she is sensitive, and someone who meant well has probably already told you that you just need to toughen her up. Do not toughen her up. Please. What your mother-in-law calls fragility is actually a nervous system with a lower sensory threshold, which is a clinical way of saying her little brain is picking up more information per second than the average toddler's brain is picking up. Every texture, every pitch shift, every flicker of fluorescent light at the pediatrician's office, every scratchy seam in her pajamas. Her brain is registering all of it and trying to process all of it at once. And the same wiring that causes the meltdown over the sock is the wiring that is allowing her to notice things other kids will never notice. You cannot separate the two. The sensitivity and the perception are the same neural setup, just showing up in different moments. The kid who melts down at the vacuum is often the same kid who will one day notice that grandma seems sad before anyone else in the room has picked up on it. But if you think the meltdowns are intense, wait until you hear about sign number 5, because this is the one that made my friend's daughter ask 46 questions in a single car ride. Sign number 5. The questions never ever stop. Why, all day, all morning, all afternoon, in the bath, at dinner, at the exact moment you sit down for the first time in 9 hours. You have answered 600 questions before lunch, and you still love her, but you are also starting to hide in the pantry. Elizabeth Hart and Todd Risley spent decades at the University of Kansas studying what predicts cognitive development in early childhood. The single strongest predictor they found was not how many words a kid heard. It was the quality and complexity of the conversation the kid was engaged in. A relentlessly questioning toddler is not being annoying. She is self-directing her own cognitive development. She is demanding the specific input her brain needs to keep building. It took me years to understand this with my own kids. When your toddler asks you the same question 15 times in slightly different ways, she is not being difficult. She is stress testing the answer. She is checking if it holds up under different angles. She is building a model of the world and making sure the pieces fit together. That is science. A 3-year-old is doing science in the passenger seat of your minivan while you are trying to merge onto the highway. Feed the questions. Answer them seriously, in real language, the way you would answer an adult. A highly active little brain is asking you for calories. And those calories are real words in real sentences. Sign number 6. She gets frustrated in a way that seems too big for her age. She wants to pour her own milk, but her hands cannot manage the jug, and she melts down on the kitchen floor. She wants to draw a cat, but the cat on the paper does not match the cat in her head, and she rips up the drawing. She wants to tell you a whole story about the park, but the words in her mouth cannot keep up with the pictures in her mind, and she ends up in tears of pure frustration with herself. Everyone keeps telling you she needs to regulate her emotions. Sure, every toddler does. But that specific kind of frustration is not actually about emotional regulation at all. She has a vision in her head that is far more detailed than what her little hands can produce, and she is experiencing the gap between the two for the first time in her life. That gap has a name. In adults, we call it ambition. In a 3-year-old, it looks like a meltdown over a broken crayon, but it is the same thing underneath. It is the awareness that she can imagine more than she can yet make, and that awareness is one of the most reliable markers of a mind running ahead of the developmental curve. Be gentle with that kid. She is feeling something most toddlers do not feel yet, and she does not have the words for it. If these first 6 signs are making you see your own kid a little differently tonight, hit subscribe before you forget. I make videos for moms who are tired of being told their kid is too much, too sensitive, too intense, too difficult. Your kid is probably none of those things. Now let's get to the one I promised you at the start, because this is the sign that makes moms cry in the comments more than any other on this list. Sign number 7. She understands what she should not be able to understand yet. You are in the kitchen, having a grown-up conversation with your partner, using grown-up words about grown-up problems. And you glance over and your 2-year-old is staring at you with an expression that says, "I know exactly what you just said." You change the subject to something happier, and her whole face relaxes. You say, "We are going to see Grandma tomorrow," and she runs for her shoes before you have finished the sentence. Everyone in your life keeps telling you she is too young to actually understand. Everyone says she is just picking up on your body language, and that is all. They are half right. She is picking up on your body language, and your tone, and the rhythm of your speech, and the micro expressions flickering across your face, and she is processing all of it at a speed the average developing brain cannot match. Language is the slowest part of toddler development. A little brain can understand far more than the little mouth can yet say. A highly gifted toddler builds a working model of the people around her through pure observation, months or even years before she has the vocabulary to describe what she has figured out. When she seems to understand what she should not yet understand, she is not reading your mind. She is reading everything else about you, and she is reading it well. This is the sign that hits moms the hardest, because it means that sad conversation you had in the kitchen when you thought she was not listening, the tense dinner when you thought she was too young to pick up on it, the worried phone call with your own mother, she got it. Not the words, but the feeling. All of it. Be careful with that little heart. It is absorbing more than you know. The next 2 signs are lighter than that one, and I saved them for the end because they are often the easiest to spot once you know what to look for. Sign number 8. Music does something to her that it does not do to other kids. You put on a song at a play date, and the other kids keep building with the blocks. Your kid stops. Her whole body shifts. She might cry, or get very still and listen like she is in a trance, or get up and move in a way that seems too coordinated for a 3-year-old. This is not drama. This is the auditory cortex and the emotional centers of her brain firing together in a synchrony that most brains do not develop until much later, if they develop it at all. Researchers at the University of Washington found that early toddlers who process complex musical patterns at this depth show significantly stronger temporal processing later on, which is the same underlying skill set that drives both language ability and early mathematical reasoning. The kid who stops everything for a song is not being sensitive in a bad way. She is experiencing the music at a level of depth most adults have forgotten how to access. Pay attention to what songs she gravitates toward. It will tell you something about the architecture of the mind being built inside her. Sign number 9. She develops deep, unusual obsessions. Not the usual toddler obsessions. Not the standard dinosaur phase or princess phase or truck phase, although those are fine too. I am talking about something narrower and stranger. The 3-year-old who is obsessed with how toilets work. The kid who wants to know the names of every cloud formation in the sky. The toddler who has been drawing the same apartment building over and over for 4 months, with more detail every time. The 4-year-old who has strong opinions about which brand of vacuum cleaner is the best. A brain running at a higher processing rate will burrow into a single topic and extract everything it can from it. This is how that brain feeds itself. Deep, narrow, research-like interests in early childhood are one of the clearest signs that a mind needs more complexity than the standard toddler environment is going to hand her. Do not try to broaden her interests artificially, and do not worry that she is missing out on normal toddler things because she would rather talk about clouds for the 9th day in a row. The kid who obsesses over clouds at 3 is often the kid who becomes the meteorologist at 30, or the writer who describes a sky in a way that makes you put the book down and look out the window. Feed the obsession instead of redirecting it. Buy the weird book, take her to the library, let her go as deep as her little brain wants to go. I wish someone had told me this when my oldest was 3 and I thought something was wrong with her. Intelligence in a toddler does not perform. It does not show off at family gatherings or announce itself by reciting colors on command, and it almost never looks like the easy kid. It looks like the one who cannot be entertained by the usual toys, who watches grown-ups like she is taking notes, who will not sleep because her brain will not stop, who cries at the sock seam and asks 46 questions in the car and melts down because her crayon cat does not match the one in her head. Maybe your kid is not too much. Maybe your kid is paying very close attention to a world that is louder and richer and more complicated than most children are equipped to notice. And the thing she needs from you is not correction or toughening up or fewer questions and quieter feelings and simpler interests. What she needs is you, your real attention, your real language, your real conversation. A mother who sees her clearly and does not try to smooth her down into something easier for the world to handle. Your own mother may not have had that. You can give it anyway. That is the cycle you get to break. From one mom to another, I promise you this much. The toddler who feels like too much right now is very often the child who grows into exactly the kind of human this world desperately needs. Keep watching her. She is watching you back, and she is learning more from you than you know. If you want more videos that help you understand what is actually going on inside your toddler's head, subscribe to the channel.